You carried us for 10 minutes and decided to steal what your whole family cannot afford in 10 lifetimes. Pick your transport from there. That is where people of your level belong.
Madam, before you bury a poor man's name, make sure the truth has no eyes.
Do not leave this story halfway, because the woman laughing now had no idea whose company was funding her empire. Comment your city and local time below, and subscribe. Because when this driver finally stood up, Lagos itself went silent. The rain came down harder. It struck the zinc roof over the entrance and ran in silver streams across the driveway. Women in expensive dresses lifted their hems away from the muddy water. Men in black tuxedos stepped aside, as if shame itself had entered the building. Ronke stood beneath the chandelier glow in a ruby-red gown. The dress had been flown in from Milan, according to the story she had posted that afternoon. Around her wrist was now the sapphire bracelet, held up by the security supervisor, like evidence from a crime scene. "Search him properly," she ordered. "People like this will steal your teeth if you smile too close to them." The driver Alo's jaw tightened. His name, as far as everyone there knew, was Deal. He had introduced himself that way when the three women climbed into his yellow tricycle near the flooded end of Amadou Bello Way. His trousers were dark with rain. His sandals had mud at the edges. The reflective strip on his mustard shirt had started peeling near the shoulder. Nothing about him asked for respect from people who only respected price tags. One guard reached for his pocket. "Do not touch me without explaining what you are doing." "Ah," Dile said. The guard paused. Ronke laughed. "See grammar. Ordinary cake driver is quoting law. Did hunger now give all of you confidence?" Titi George folded her arms over her emerald green dress. "Please, let them finish. We are already late. This man has delayed us enough." "You delayed yourselves when you refused to pay him," Bisi said. Her voice shook, but it did not break. She wore a burnt orange blouse beneath a pale aqua apron. A tray of champagne glasses lay overturned near her feet. Two of them cracked from when Ronke Alo's palm sent her sideways. One thin line of blood had appeared beneath Bisi Alo's lower lip. Kemi Williams lifted her phone higher. "This is becoming interesting," she said. "My followers will enjoy it." Bisi turned towards her. "Madam, somebody Alo's name is being destroyed and you are thinking of content?" Kemi Alo's face hardened. "Mind your work," she snapped. "You are carrying tray. Carry it well." The event manager arrived, breathing fast. His black suit looked one size too small around his stomach. "What is happening here?" he demanded. Ronke pointed at Bisi. "Your worker insulted me and defended a thief. Sack her now, or I will make sure Marina Crest never receives 1 naira from any member of the Sapphire Women Alo's circle again." The manager did not ask Bisi what she had seen. He did not look at the swelling on her cheek. He looked at Ronke Alo's bracelet, at the cameras, at the guests, and then at the sponsorship banner behind the entrance. "Woman moving Lagos presence. Dignity on wheels," the words shone in gold. "Bisi," the manager said quietly, "remove your apron and leave the premises." Her mouth opened. "Sir, I saw the bracelet hanging inside the lining of her dress before she came down from the cake." It did not fall behind his seat. Ronke stepped closer. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I am saying what I saw." The entrance went still. Rain, breathing, the faint hum of the air conditioning from inside the hall. Then Ronke smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the kind a person wore when they had already decided that another human being was too small to fight back. "My dear," she said, "truth is expensive. You cannot afford your own version." Dele looked at Bisi. For 1 second, something moved behind his eyes. Not fear, not surprise. Recognition. He had seen people remain silent around power many times, He had watched directors nod at figures they knew were wrong. He had watched senior managers ignore drivers who waited outside glass buildings in the heat. He had watched polite people become cruel once they believed the person before them had no influence. But Bisi had no influence. She still spoke. The police vehicle arrived at 6:51 p.m. By then, 3 short videos of the scene were already moving through private WhatsApp groups. None showed Ronka slapping Bisi. None showed the argument over the fare. They began where the bracelet appeared behind the driver Alo's seat. That was how lies usually traveled. They removed their beginning. As the officers approached, Dale glanced once at the blinking camera above the windscreen. Then he looked towards a woman standing near the far end of the driveway beneath a plain black umbrella. She wore no jewelry. Her navy trouser suit was simple. Her face gave nothing away. Halima Yusuf gave the smallest nod. Proceed. 12 days earlier, on Monday the 8th of September, the same man had been seated on the 31st floor of Arrow Link Tower in Ikoyi. There had been no rain that morning. The windows behind him showed Lagos spread beneath a pale sky. Boats moved across the lagoon like dark stitches. Traffic crawled over the bridge. From that height, the city looked organized. It was not. Seyi Coker sat at the head of a walnut conference table, listening to an executive explain why Arrowlink Holdings should approve a 48.7 billion-naira investment in short-distance transport. Seyi wore a bright cobalt suit that morning, though he had removed the jacket and folded it over the back of his chair. His white shirt was open at the collar. No tie, no watch visible. He had a habit of removing anything that could distract him when numbers were being discussed. The projected recovery period is 51 months. The executive said. Velvet Route Ventures already has the field structure. They have trained 1,247 drivers, 92% satisfaction. Seyi turned a page. What happened to the remaining 8%? A few people smiled politely. The executive did not. Normal complaints, sir. Delayed payments. Maintenance disputes. Some drivers resist formal structures. Resist in what way? They prefer cash arrangements. You know how informal transport workers can be. Seyi lifted his eyes. The man Alo's voice reduced. Halima sat 2 seats to Seyi Alo's right. At 47, she had built a reputation for asking questions that made dishonest people thirsty. Her glasses rested low on her nose as she studied the legal annex. There are 37 anonymous complaints attached to the due diligence folder, she said. Why were they classified as low credibility? The executive cleared his throat. Most were unsigned. Anonymous complaints are usually unsigned, Halima replied. Silence passed around the table. Seyi looked down at the spreadsheet again. One column carried maintenance fees. Another showed training costs. The total seemed clean. Too clean. He took a pencil and wrote 3 numbers in the margin. Then he moved backwards through the quarterly statements. 73.6 million naira is missing between the approved support allocation and the driver benefit schedule, he said. Nobody answered. The executive leaned forward. Sir, it may be a categorization issue. Money does not disappear because somebody used the wrong heading. Seyi slid the paper across the table. Show me where it went. The executive began turning pages too quickly. Another director spoke. Chairman, Velvet Route has strong political relationships. Ronke Balagun has built a respected brand. Women Moving Lagos has received international recognition. Recognition is not reconciliation, Seyi said. A-words do not balance accounts. He tapped the complaint file. One letter claimed a tricycle had been seized after 9 days of delayed payment, despite 87% of the principal being cleared. Another described 4 separate daily charges that did not appear in the official contract. A third accused field officers of collecting money without receipts. 3 audits had found nothing. All 3 had been announced in advance. Seyi closed the folder. "We are not signing," the executive blinked. "Sir?" "Not yet." A murmur moved around the table. One director shifted in his chair. "The public launch is in 12 days. The banks are ready. Marina Crest has been booked. If we delay now, the market may read it as uncertainty. Then let the market read slowly." Seyi pushed back his chair. "I want the truth from the road, not from a prepared presentation." The room went quiet. Halima understood before anyone else did. "No," she said. Seyi looked at her. "No what?" "No, you are not going into a transport park alone because you drove your father aloe's cake 20 years ago." Several directors stared at her. Nobody spoke to Seyi Coker that way in public. He almost smiled. "I did not say alone. You did not need to. My father aloe's machine was not a keke. It was a 3-wheeler delivery bike. That distinction will not save your head if touts surround you at Oberlande." Seyi folded his arms. "Can our investigators go in without being identified?" They tried twice. Velvet Route has people at the parks. New faces are watched. Can an external auditor understand the contract from the driver aloe's side in 12 days? Halima did not answer immediately. She knew the weakness in the system. Everybody did. Reports moved upward. Reality stayed below. Seyi continued. "We are about to fund a structure that may affect more than 5,000 drivers over 4 years. If our money strengthens a bad system, we cannot later claim ignorance." One director shook his head. "Chairman, there are safer ways. Name one that has worked." No one did. Halima closed the legal annex. "If this happens, it happens properly. Valid commercial license. Registered vehicle. Independent insurance. Medical clearance. Emergency extraction. Security at distance. No private recording where consent is legally required." Agreed. "And the camera must be disclosed with a visible safety sticker." Agreed. "You will not interfere physically in enforcement disputes." Seyilo's mouth tightened. "Within reason? No. That phrase is how rich men enter trouble." A small laugh escaped from one end of the table. Seyi looked towards it. The laugh died. Halima continued. "You will use a working name. Deal, common enough. You will not carry personal bank cards. You will not call your office. You will not reveal yourself because somebody insults you. And if somebody commits a crime, we document. We preserve evidence. We act through law." Seyi held her gaze. "Fine." She pointed at him. That answer was too easy. It was still an answer. At 8:07 the following morning, Seyi arrived at a transport training yard in Yaba wearing dark trousers, a grey polo shirt and old trainers. He had not worn those trainers in 6 years. They pinched his left heel. The instructor did not recognize him. That was the first useful thing. For 2 days, Seyi repeated road safety drills, passenger loading rules, basic maintenance checks, and emergency maneuvers. He stalled twice. He took one corner too widely. An instructor shouted at him for checking the mirror late. "Delay! You want to carry somebody aloe's mother into gutter? No, Oga. Then use your eyes before God collects them." Seyi nodded. He had paid consultants thousands of dollars to advise him with less honesty. By Thursday, his mustard shirt had been issued. The reflective strip was deliberately old but functional. The yellow tricycle assigned to him had 68,413 kilometers on the meter, a replaced left mirror, and a small camera fixed above the windscreen. A sticker beneath it read, "For passenger and driver Safiti. Video recording in operation." The footage uploaded automatically to an independent encrypted server managed by Arrowlink Aloe's safety contractor. Halima had chosen the system herself. "Do not touch the camera," she warned. I know how cameras work. You also knew how to drive until the instructor called you a threat to somebody, Alo's mother. Seyi looked at her. Halima looked back. He entered Oberlande Park at 6:18 a.m. on Friday. The place was already alive. Conductors shouted destinations. Engines coughed. Hawkers moved between vehicles carrying bread, sachet water, phone chargers, and plantain chips. The air carried exhaust fumes, hot oil, and the sharp smell of morning rain trapped in old gutters. A man in a faded green vest stopped Seyi before he reached the loading line. New driver, yes. Oga. Park fee, 1,200. Seyi paid. The man wrote a receipt. Another person approached 2 minutes later. Security, 750. Where is the receipt? Seyi asked. The man squeezed his face. You are asking receipt at 6:20 in the morning? I am asking because I am paying money. Pay first, grammar later. Seyi paid. No receipt. A third collector came at 6:34. Cleaning, 500. Seyi looked around at the overflowing bin beside the gutter. Who is cleaning? The collector stepped closer. You want interview? I want to understand what I am paying for. The man slapped the roof of the tricycle. You are new here, so I will advise you like my younger brother. Do not let this neat beard deceive you. This park can roughen your face before breakfast, say I paid. At 6:49, a fourth person came. Route protection. 1-3. Say I stared at him. What protection? The man smiled without humor. Protection from problems, and if I do not pay, you will meet the problems. A woman Alo's voice came from behind Seyi. Pay him, my brother. He turned. Bisi stood beside a small food table covered with a clean plastic cloth. Her burnt orange blouse was rolled to the elbows. Steam rose from a silver pot of pap. Beside it sat bowls of akara, each arranged in groups of 5. She did not look frightened. She looked tired of seeing the same thing. Seyi paid the 1,300 naira. The collector took the money and walked away. No receipt, Seyi called after him. The man raised one hand without turning. Bisi shook her head. You want them to mark your number on the first day. Seyi climbed down from the tricycle. What does marking my number mean? It means you will wake up one morning and discover that your K has developed a problem that mechanic cannot explain. Or they will say, you blocked road, or they will tow you. There are many languages for punishment. How do drivers complain? Bisi gave him a long look. You are truly new? Yes. The complaint line belongs to the same people collecting the money. That cannot be the official arrangement. She laughed once. Official arrangement is what they show visitors. This one is the arrangement that eats breakfast. Seyi glanced towards the 4 collectors. On the green vest of the first man was a small embroidered logo. Velvet Moot. He turned back to Bisi. How much for the akara? 5 for 500. Give me 10. You just paid almost 4,000 naira before carrying 1 passenger. Start with 5. I can finish 10. That confidence is how people enter debt. For the first time that morning, Seyi laughed. Bisi wrapped 5 akara in paper and poured pap into a plastic cup. 700, she said. He paid. She gave him 300 naira change. I gave you 1,000, and your food is 700. I know. Then why are you looking at the money? Seyi realized what had surprised him. In the conference room, 37 complaints had been called unreliable because the people behind them were anonymous. Here, a woman who did not know him had returned every naira correctly without witness, camera, or consequence. He put the change into his pocket. What is your name? Bisi. Del. I know. The instructor who brought your papers shouted it 3 times. She turned back to her pot. Eat before Lagos starts beating you. By 9:15 a.m., Lagos had started. Seyi carried a tailor from Oberlande to Falomo. then 2 office workers to Oniru, then a woman with 6 bags of fabric who argued for 12 minutes over 100 naira. At 11:38, a field officer wearing a velvet route identity card stopped him near a loading point. Your daily compliance has not reflected. I paid at Oberlende. That is park collection. This one is platform compliance. How much? 1,000. Receipt? The officer looked at him with open irritation. Driver, do not start what you cannot finish. Seyi took out his notebook. What is your name? The officer covered his badge with one hand. Are you police? No. Then close that book. A second officer arrived. Together they stood on either side of the tricycle. Passengers nearby looked away. The first officer leaned towards Seyi. People like you think, because government gave you license, you have become somebody. This road has owners. Know your level. Seyi felt anger rise in his chest. Not because of the insult, because of how practiced it sounded. He had heard executives use cleaner words for the same belief. He paid. At 1:06 p.m., he returned to Oberlende and parked near Bisi Alo's table. She looked at his face. They collected again. How did you know? You are squeezing your face like somebody who swallowed bitter leaf without soup. He told her about the compliance payment. She nodded. That one comes every Friday. It is not in the driver agreement. You have seen the agreement? Yes. She stared at him. Most new drivers do not read page 2. You are quoting agreement on your first day. I read documents. What work did you do before? Seyi paused. Logistics. It was not a lie. Bisi accepted it. A driver approached her carrying a folded paper. Bisi, help me check this thing. They say I owe 26,000. She wiped her hands and opened the document. The driver stood beside her, nervous. You paid maintenance levy last Tuesday? She asked. Yes. Show receipt. He produced one. Bisi compared the figures. They entered it as arrears recovery, not maintenance. That is why the system is still showing balance. The man sighed. So, what will I do? Go to the office. Do not give them the original receipt. Take photocopy. Let them stamp your complaint. They will refuse. Then take picture of yourself standing there with Today Alo's newspaper. The driver smiled weakly. You should have been lawyer. I prefer numbers. Numbers cannot pretend they did not hear you. Seyi watched her. How do you know all this? He asked after the man left. I studied accounting. Studied or qualified? Studied. Qualification is waiting for money. She said it without self-pity. Then she took another order. Before Seyi drove away, he noticed a stack of photocopied receipts beneath her table, held together with a rubber band. Some carried the Velvet Route logo. Some did not. All of them carried somebody Alo's fear. That evening, Halima waited in a grey car 2 streets from the park. Seyi entered the back seat at 8:42 p.m. and removed the mustard shirt. How many collections? She asked. 6. Receipts? 3. 3 direct, 1 implied. Halima typed into her tablet. Any evidence linking field collection to Velvet Route. Seyi placed the official receipt and a photograph of the green vest on the seat between them. Enough to continue asking questions, not enough to accuse. Halima nodded. What about the woman at the food stand? Seyi looked at her. You saw her? We saw everybody who came within 5 meters of you. She helps drivers understand their papers, nor potential source. Potential target. Halima stopped typing. What did you see? Records under her table. She may be collecting complaints. Did you ask? No. Good. Do not pull civilians into this carelessly. Seyi leaned back. Outside, horns cut through the night. A bus passed with its door open, and passengers pressed close to one another. From the 31st floor, those people were dots. From inside the tricycle, they had names. Fares, worries, and exact amounts missing from their pockets. Seyi looked down at the 2 receipts. The proposed investment documents claimed that drivers paid 1 transparent daily charge. He had paid 6. One of them carried the logo of the company his board wanted to trust with 48.7 billion naira. And it was only the first day. On the second day, Seyi learned that a road could collect rent from a man more times than a landlord. At 6:11 a.m., the first fee came. At 7:03, another followed. By 10:26, he had paid 3,900 naira in charges and earned only 5,200 from passengers. Fuel still waited. Food still waited. Maintenance still waited. Profit had not even entered the conversation. A driver beside him laughed when Seyi calculated the figures aloud. "My brother, throw away that your mathematics," the man said. "If you count everything, you will park the cake and start crying. How do you know whether the work is paying you? We know by whether we eat. That is not the same thing. In Lagos, sometimes it is." The man had missed 1 day of work after malaria kept him in bed. Velvet Route added a recovery penalty, an inactivity charge, and an administrative reactivation fee. He had borrowed money to return to work. Now part of each day Alo's earnings served a debt created because he had been sick. Seyi asked to see the agreement. The driver laughed again. "Agreement?" "They showed us where to sign, that was all." By Monday, Seyi had heard 12 versions of the same story. A payment made, but entered under the wrong heading. A maintenance fee collected even when the driver bought his own parts. A tracking charge for a tracker that had stopped working 6 months earlier. A penalty notice delivered after the deadline written on the notice had already passed. Nothing was large enough to shock a boardroom on its own. That was the design. 500 naira here, 1,300 there, an extra 700 before a driver could load passengers. Small amounts repeated across hundreds of people until somebody in an air-conditioned office called the total revenue. Seyi kept driving. He listened more than he spoke. He learned which pothole filled first when rain came. He learned that passengers who insulted drivers often begged them to enter one-way streets when they were late. He learned that the men who shouted loudest at the park lowered their voices when a field officer approached. He also learned that Bisi arrived every morning at 5:43. Not 5:40. Not 5:45. At 5:43, she pushed her small table into position, tied the pale aqua apron around her waist, and lit the burner beneath her pot. "You time everything?" she asked when he mentioned it. "Important things. My arrival is important. Breakfast is important." She gave him a suspicious look, then placed 6 akara in his paper instead of 5. "Do not think this means you are special," she said. "One is small. It is the same size as the others. Then maybe your eye is the problem." Their conversations came in pieces between passengers and collections. Seyi told her he had worked in warehouses, fleet operations, and distribution. All true. He did not tell her that the warehouses belonged to him, that the fleet carried goods across 6 countries, or that his signature could move more money before lunch than most people would see in a lifetime. Bisi told him she had studied accounting at a polytechnic and worked for a small retail company after graduation. When the company closed, she began preparing food in the morning and taking event shifts at night. "I am managing," she said. "You still want the professional qualification?" "Yes. When is the next exam?" "November 17th. Have you registered?" "Halfway." "How can registration be halfway when money is halfway?" She smiled as she said it, but her fingers tightened around the spoon. Seyi did not offer to pay. The impulse came, he stopped it. Money given too early could destroy the truth between 2 people. It could turn kindness into debt. It could make Bisi wonder whether every conversation had been a transaction. So he bought his food and collected his change. On Tuesday afternoon, a driver arrived at the park without his tricycle. His shirt was torn near the pocket. Mud covered one knee. "They carried it," he said. Bisi came around her table. "Why?" "They said yesterday. Alo's transfer entered late. You paid yesterday. By 4:15, I showed them the alert." "Where is the notice?" "No notice." "They came with towing van." The man Alo's voice trembled. "My wife Alo's medicine is inside that cake. My daily book is there. Everything." Seyi stood. "Where did they take it?" The driver pointed towards the road. Sangatedo Yard. Bisi caught Seyi Alo's arm before he moved. "Do not go and fight," she said. "I did not say I would fight. Your face said it." The three of them reached the storage yard at 3:37 p.m. A high metal fence surrounded rows of seized tricycles. Some had flat tires. Some had missing mirrors. Numbers were written in white chalk across their windscreens. A field officer sat beneath an umbrella, scrolling through his phone. "The payment entered late," he said without looking up. "Reactivation and towing is 32,000. "It entered before close of business," Seyi replied. The officer looked at him. "Who are you?" "A driver. Then face your own steering." Bisi placed a printed bank alert on the table. The contract gives 24 hours for reconciliation where transfer is made before 5 p.m. The officer lifted his head slowly. "Madam, are you his lawyer?" "No." "Then carry your market apron away from my office." "This is not an office," Bisi said. "It is umbrella." The driver made a frightened sound in his throat. Seyi almost smiled. The officer stood. "You people are becoming too bold. Because government allowed all of you to carry 3 passengers, you now think you can carry sense." He moved around the table and pushed the driver in the chest. Seyi stepped between them. "Do not touch him." The officer pushed Seyi with both hands. His heel slid in the wet earth. He went down on one knee, splashing mud across his trousers. For half a second, Seyi Alo's body reacted before his mind did. His right hand closed. His shoulders shifted. Then Halima Alo's instruction came back. Document, preserve, act through law. He stood slowly. The officer laughed. "See him. Fine face in gutter. Next time, respect people who control your daily bread." Bisi removed the clean scarf from around her neck and handed it to Seyi. "Wipe your hand." The seized driver looked close to tears. "How much can you pay now?" Bisi asked him. "I have 6,000. The officer shook his head. 32 or nothing. Bisi turned to say, "How much is with you?" 21,400. She counted money from the inner pocket of her apron. "I have 11,600. "No," Say said. She ignored him and placed the notes on the table. 33,000, she said. "Give receipt. Return the 1,000 balance." The officer Alo's eyes moved over the money. Cash reactivation does not carry balance. Then write 33,000 on the receipt. He glared at her. Bisi did not blink. After 7 minutes of argument, the gate opened. The driver recovered his tricycle. The officer issued a receipt for 32,000 and returned 1,000 naira with such bitterness that one would think the money came from his blood. Outside the yard, the driver held Bisi Alo's hands. "I will pay you back. Pay Dili first." Most of it was his. Seyi looked at her. "You did not ask me before using my money. You were busy squeezing your face. I was thinking. It looked expensive." She turned to the driver. "Photocopy the receipt. Keep the original dry." When the man left, Seyi handed her scarf back. Mud marked one end. "I will wash it." "You cannot wash road mud with billion-naira detergent?" she asked. The words struck him so sharply that he stared. Bisi laughed. "See your face. I am joking. You behave as if you have never washed anything before. I have washed things. What things? Seyi searched his memory. A car. When? He paused too long. Bisi shook her head. Keep the scarf until tomorrow. That evening, Halima reviewed the camera footage from the yard. The push is clear, she said. So is the payment demand. Can we stop them now? We can challenge that seizure. We cannot yet prove the wider fraud. A man nearly lost his livelihood over a transfer made 45 minutes before their own deadline. I know. Knowing is becoming an irritating word. Halima looked at him across the hotel suite they had converted into a temporary evidence room. Receipts covered one table. Photographs were arranged by date. Audio from public interactions had been transcribed. Every item had a chain of custody label. You wanted evidence that could survive court, she said. Anger is fast. Evidence is slower. Both. You are rich enough to want impossible things. Law is not obliged to provide them. Seyi walked to the window. Below, Lagos moved in restless lines of red and white lights. My company was ready to give them more power. Your company paused, only because one number annoyed me. It did more than annoy you. Seyi said nothing. Halima softened her voice. Leadership is not proved by never missing a problem. It is proved by what you do after you see it. The following morning, Bisi found her washed scarf folded on top of her food table. Beside it was a plastic envelope. Inside were photocopies of the receipt from Sangatedo, the payment alert, and a written timeline. She looked at Seyi. You prepared this? Yes. For the driver? For his complaint. Bisi read the timeline twice. This is professional work. I told you I worked in logistics. Warehouse people do not usually write evidence schedules. Good warehouse people do. She narrowed her eyes. You are hiding something. Seyi held her gaze. Everybody hid something. Some people hid shame. Some hid hunger. Some hid the fact that the person in front of them could change their life with one phone call. I had a different life before this, he said. Did you steal money? No. Did you run away from wife? No. Police? No. Then keep your secret. As long as it is not dangerous to me, it is not. At the time, he believed that answer. The charity visit happened on Wednesday. By 10 a.m., cleaners had swept the loading area that nobody cleaned despite the daily cleaning fee. Velvet route workers hung banners between poles. A photographer directed drivers into 2 neat rows. Women moving Lagos had arrived. Ronke Balogun stepped out of a black sport utility vehicle at 10:47 a.m. Her ruby blouse carried a sculpted shoulder detail. Her trousers were white. Her shoes had heels so narrow that 2 assistants placed a carpet over the broken ground before she walked. Titi followed in emerald green. Kemi wore electric magenta and held her phone before her face from the moment she stepped down. Smile, my people, Ronke called. The drivers looked at one another. A velvet route officer hissed at them. Smile now. They smiled. Boxes marked driver. Support pack were stacked near the banner. New reflective vests lay across a table. A media crew moved into place. Ronke embraced one driver and turned her cheek towards the camera. We are not just investing in vehicles, she said. We are restoring dignity. Seyi stood at the back in his mustard shirt. The word dignity had started to disturb him. People used it most loudly when they wanted credit for returning a small piece of what they had taken. An older driver stumbled while stepping forward. His knee struck the ground. Ronke moved around him without looking down. The photographer lowered his camera. Madam, maybe help him up. Ronke stopped. The camera rose again. She turned, bent carefully so her white trousers would not touch the ground, and placed one hand beneath the man, Alo's arm. My father, she said sweetly. We are here for you. The shutter clicked many times. As soon as the photographer moved away, Ronke released him. Who allowed this old man into the front row? She whispered to an assistant. He looks untidy. Seyi heard every word. Bisi heard too. Her spoon stopped above the pot. The program continued. Drivers received new vests for photographs. Women held food boxes and smiled. Kemi filmed herself walking among them. We are changing lives in Lagos, she told her followers. No one should be left behind. Behind her, an assistant collected the vests from drivers who had already been photographed. Another worker returned the unopened food boxes to a van. Bisi stepped forward. Excuse me, ma, are the boxes not for the drivers? The assistant looked at Ronke. Ronke turned slowly. Who are you? I sell food here. The men were told they would receive support packs. And they are carrying them back. Ronke looked at the cameras. Most had moved to the other side of the park. Her face changed. My dear, do not involve yourselves in what you do not understand. The boxes are empty? Bisi asked. Titi made a disgusted sound. This is why poor people remain poor. Somebody is helping your community and your first instinct is suspicion. Bisi glanced towards the van. If the boxes are help, why are they leaving with the helpers? Kemi lowered her phone. Can somebody remove this Akara woman? Her oil smoke is entering my video. A field officer approached Bisi. Seyi moved closer. Ronke noticed him. Her eyes traveled from his faded shirt to his sandals. You, she said. Why are you standing there like unpaid security? I am listening. To what? To dignity being loaded back into the van. The air changed. Titialo's mouth fell open. Kemi swung her phone towards him. Ronke stared at Seyi for 2 full seconds, then she smiled. Driver. There are people who speak because their words have value. There are others who speak because silence reminds them. They are nobody. Do not confuse yourself. Seyi Alo's voice stayed calm. How many of the 1,247 trained drivers are here? Ronke, Alo's smile disappeared. Who gave you that number? It is on your banner. He pointed. The number was printed beneath the charity slogan. Kemi laughed too loudly. He can read. Wonderful. Let us clap for him. Nobody clapped. Ronke stepped nearer. What is your name? Del, face your steering before curiosity carries you into unemployment. She turned away. The field officer moved towards Seyi, but Ronke raised one hand. Leave him. Hunger is already punishing him. The media crew returned. Her smile returned with them. By 11:36 a.m., the vehicles were gone. The banners remained. So did the empty ground where the support boxes had stood. One driver still wore a new vest. An assistant rushed back, pulled it off him, and ran towards the departing van. Bisi watched in silence. Then she looked at Seyi. You ask too much. Was I wrong? No. Then what is the problem? The truth can be correct and still put your head under tire. Seyi looked at the road where Ronke Alo's vehicle had disappeared. She knew the figure immediately. What figure? The training number. She became afraid when I mentioned it. Bisi wiped the table. People like her are not afraid of drivers. Maybe they should be. Bisi studied him again. That afternoon, she told him about her father, Alo's tricycle. She did not plan to. The story came because Seyi asked why she kept so many receipts. My father entered their hire purchase program 3 years ago, she said. He had paid most of it. Then he was admitted in hospital. 9 days, that was all. 9 days late? 38,500 naira. And they seized the vehicle. They came at dawn. No proper notice. My father was still weak. He stood outside and begged them. They carried it. What happened to the payments already made? They said, penalties consumed them. That is not how principal repayment works. I know. Did you challenge it? I wrote letters. I visited their office 14 times. On the 15th visit, security told me I was disturbing business. Her voice stayed level. That made it worse. My father died owing money on a vehicle they had already taken. She continued. 6 months later, I saw the same cake on another route. They had painted over part of the number. Do you have the chassis number? Bisi reached beneath her table and removed a small notebook wrapped in transparent plastic. Here. Seyi read the number. Next to it, her father had recorded every payment by date. 87% of the agreed purchase price had been cleared. Fees added later were written in a different hand on a separate schedule. Can I copy this? Seyi asked. Bisi pulled the book back. Why? To compare it with other cases. You said you are driver. I am a driver. You also prepare complaint files, quote contracts, and count training numbers from banners. Seyi chose his words carefully. I want to understand what is happening. Understanding does not return a seized keke, no. Evidence might. Bisi Alo's expression changed. Hope was dangerous when somebody had disappointed you many times. It did not enter proudly. It stood at the door and asked whether humiliation was waiting inside. She opened the notebook again. You can photograph the pages, she said. Do not lose anything. I will not. Do not promise what you cannot control. Seyi lowered the phone. You are right. He photographed the records without making another promise. That night, Halima Alo's team searched public corporate filings and court records. They found that many seized tricycles had been transferred to a resale company connected to Velvet Route through 2 layers of ownership. The link was legal on paper, the pattern was not. Bisi Alo's father, Alo's chassis number appears in a disposal batch of 22 vehicles, Halima said. The file says voluntary surrender. He did not surrender it. We need documentary proof. We have his payment book. We have a photograph of his payment book. We will need the original bank statements and witness evidence. Seyi paced. Halima watched him. You are carrying this one personally, because it is personal to her. That is not what I meant. Seyi stopped. Do not start. I am not starting anything. I am advising you not to confuse respect with rescue. I have offered her nothing. Good. Keep it that way until she understands who you are. Seyi looked away. The lie of omission had begun to feel heavier. 2 days later, the rain came. It began at 2:17 p.m. and refused to stop. By 5, sections of Victoria Island were waterlogged. Cars moved slowly through brown water. Drivers abandoned stalled vehicles near the road. Ride-hailing prices climbed until even wealthy people complained. At 5:58 p.m., Ronke, Titi, and Kemi stood beneath the awning of a luxury boutique, furious. Their sport utility vehicle had not moved for 43 minutes. The driver called to say a delivery truck had blocked the lane behind him. The Dignity on Wheels gala would begin at 7. We cannot arrive after the bank chairman, Ronke said. Titi lifted her emerald skirt away from the splash of a passing bus. I am not entering any of these dirty things. Kemi checked her phone. There is no other way. Marina Crest is less than 3 kilometers. A yellow tricycle approached through the rain. Its left mirror was newer than the right. The driver wore a mustard shirt. Ronke stepped into the road and raised her hand. Seyi saw them. He considered driving past. Then he remembered the investigation. People spoke freely around those they believed did not matter. He stopped. Marina Crest, Ronke said. 4,000. The road is flooded. 4,300. Titi stared at him. You are bargaining with us over 300 naira? I am stating the fare. Ronke looked at the rain, then at the time. Fine, but keep this thing steady. My shoes cost more than your vehicle. They climbed in with 3 garment bags, 2 handbags, and a box of event materials. The space was tight. Kemi sprayed perfume into the air. What are you doing? Seyi asked. Removing the smell. What smell? She looked at him, in the mirror. The smell of public transport. Titi laughed. Ronk adjusted the ruby-red fabric around her knees. The sapphire bracelet sat beneath the light near her wrist. Poor people are becoming too sensitive. She said. Everything offends them now. Kemi aimed her phone towards herself. Traffic has humbled us. She told the camera. We are supporting local transport today. She turned the phone briefly to show the tricycle, then back to her face. Do not show me, Seyi said. Relax. Nobody is interested in your face. They laughed. Seyi guided the tricycle through a shallow section of water and avoided a stalled car. Ronkefello's phone rang. Yes, she said. The Arrowlink people are already there. Keep them comfortable. Chairman Coker will not attend. He never attends these social things. We only need his executives. Seyi kept his eyes on the road. Titi leaned closer. Are you certain the contract is safe? Please. It is 48.7 billion, not a village contribution. Everybody who matters has already been carried along. What about the compliance questions? Kemi asked. Ronkialo's tone changed. Do not discuss business in front of a driver. Titi laughed. What will he do, audit us? Another round of laughter. Seyi took the next turn. Madam, he said, does your program collect a platform compliance fee from drivers? The laughter stopped. Ronki met his eyes in the mirror. Why are you asking? I have been charged. Then pay what you owe. It is not in the agreement. Which agreement? The driver agreement. Titi leaned forward. Why are you questioning her? Face the road before you kill us. Seyi did not answer. Ronkealo's gaze remained on him. Have we met? She asked. No. Where do you operate? Oberlende. Dele. Something cold entered her face. She remembered the driver at the charity visit. The one who had counted the training number. The one who had watched the empty boxes return to the van. You again? She said. Rain hammered the roof. Nobody spoke for the next 40 seconds. Then Titi whispered, Is this the rude one? Ronke did not reply. At 6:39 p.m., they reached Marina Crest Pavilion. Seyi stopped beneath the covered entrance. A doorman rushed forward with an umbrella. Guests turned towards the unusual arrival. Ronke climbed down first. The hem of her ruby gown caught briefly against the side of the seat. The sapphire bracelet slipped beneath the fabric, near the inner lining of her garment bag. Bisi, standing nearby with a tray, saw the blue stones flash and disappear. Madam, your bracelet, she began. Ronki jerked the dress free. Do not touch me. Bisi stepped back. Titi climbed down next. Kemi followed, still filming. Seyi removed their event box and placed it under the awning. 4,300, he said. Ronki opened her handbag. Titi touched her arm. Do not tell me you are paying him that amount. He brought us. In this leaking insect? The roof did not leak, Seyi said. Titi looked at him as if the tricycle had spoken. Ronke removed a 500 naira note and handed it to Titi. Titi dropped it into a puddle. Take that, she said. The exposure of carrying us is already free advertisement. Guests laughed. Seyi did not bend. The agreed fare is 4,300. Ronki sprayed perfume across the back seat. Now the vehicle has increased in value. You should pay me. More laughter. Bisi set down her tray. Madam, he brought all of you through the flood. Pay him what you agreed. Ronka turned. You again? Bisi recognized her from the park. Yes, ma. Are you following me with poverty? I work here in the evenings. Then work. Nobody asked you to join the conversation. Kemi panned her phone from Bisi to Seyi. This is what happens when service workers become too familiar, she said. Bisi bent, picked the wet 500 naira note from the puddle, and held it out to Titi. Take your money. It is not complete. Titi recoiled as if the note carried disease. Do not bring that filthy thing near me. Ronke reached for her wrist. Her bracelet was gone. Her eyes widened. My bracelet. Titi stopped smiling. What? My sapphire bracelet is missing. Bisi pointed towards the side of Ronke Alo's garment bag. I saw it catch inside your dress when you came down. Ronke opened the bag. Her assistant, who had just arrived from inside the hall, took it from her and searched the lining. The bracelet lay there. For one brief second, Ronke held it in her hand. Nobody else saw, except the corridor camera above the glass door. Ronke looked at Delay. She remembered his questions, the receipts, the training number, the way he watched instead of shrinking. A poor driver with too much information could become inconvenient. A poor thief with a criminal accusation would become useless. Ronke closed her fingers around the bracelet. Search the keke, she said. Bisi stared at her. But you found. Ronke Alo's palm struck BCO's face. The sound cracked through the entrance. The tray fell. 30 wealthy guests turned. While attention moved towards Bisi, Ronke stepped beside the tricycle, leaned towards the rear seat, and pushed the bracelet into the small storage space behind the driver. Then she screamed, My bracelet! This man has stolen my bracelet! Security rushed forward. The guard searched. The sapphire stones appeared beneath the golden light, and the lie found its audience. The officers did not ask who had touched the tricycle before the search. They did not ask why Ronke had stood beside it. They did not ask why the woman who claimed an 11.8 million naira bracelet had been stolen was already wearing the bracelet when the photographs began. They saw a driver. They saw a rich woman. For some people, that was enough evidence. Enter the vehicle, one officer told Seyi. Bisi came forward again. He did not steal anything. I saw the bracelet in her dress. The event manager grabbed her apron and pulled it loose. You have been dismissed, he said under his breath. Leave before I call security for you too. You are dismissing me because I spoke? I am dismissing you because you caused a scene. She slapped me. Lower your voice. Bisi stared at him. There are moments when a person sees an institution clearly. Not the logo, not the polished lobby, the thing beneath it. Marina Crest had a staff handbook that promised dignity, safety, and fair hearing. Yet one wealthy guest had raised her hand, and every promise in the handbook had bent around her jewelry. Bisi removed the apron. She folded it once. Then she placed it on the manager Alo's arm. Sir, keep it, she said. It seems the cloth has more value to you than the person wearing it. The guests went silent again. Ronke pointed towards the driveway. Take both of them away. Bisi followed the police vehicle in a bus. She had no umbrella. By the time she reached the station, rain had soaked the burnt orange blouse and flattened the cream scarf against her head. Her left cheek had swollen. Her lower lip still carried a dark line where the skin had split. The officer at the desk looked at her. You are complainant? No. Witness? For who? The driver you brought. Family? No. Wife? No. The officer frowned. Then, why are you here? Bisi stood dripping onto the floor. Because he is innocent. The officer returned to his papers. That one is for investigation. Then investigate. He raised his head again. My sister, do not come here and teach us work. I am not teaching. I am asking you to start from the beginning of the matter, not from the part rich people recorded. A door opened behind the desk. Seyi sat in a narrow interview room, his mustard shirt still wet. His phone and wallet had been placed in a transparent property bag. An officer stood over him with a statement form. Write that you carried the 3 women from Amadou Bello Way, the officer said. I have written that. Write that the bracelet was found inside your vehicle. It was found after several people had access to the vehicle. Write what I said. I will write what happened. The officer slapped the table with his palm. Driver, This is not debate society. Seyi looked up at him. No. That is why the statement must be accurate. The officer opened his mouth. A calm female voice came from the doorway. It will also be taken in the presence of counsel. Halima entered carrying a leather folder. Her navy suit was dry. 2 strands of grey showed at the edge of her neatly covered hair. Who are you? The officer asked. Halima Yusuf. Counsel for the driver. Seyi did not react. They had agreed on the role in advance. If legal intervention became necessary, Halima would present herself through an independent transport rights legal network that Arrowlink funded at arm aloe's length. No company name, no Chairman Aloe's title. The officer looked from Halima to Seyi. This cake driver has lawyer waiting. Halima placed her card on the table. Every Nigerian has a right to counsel. Wealth is not part of the qualification. The officer read the card twice. Outside, Bisi saw Halima through the open door and stopped. Relief came first, then suspicion. Who was Dile? Halima requested the complaint entry, the search record, and the names of every person who had accessed the tricycle. She asked whether the security guard who found the bracelet had worn gloves. She asked whether the vehicle had been sealed before the search. She asked where the event premises footage had been preserved. Each question made the room quieter. At 8:04 p.m., the station received a call from Marina Crest Security. The driver Aloe's camera sticker was visible in guest footage. Halima formally notified the station that independent safety footage existed and had been preserved. At 8:17, the officer who took Seyi Aloe's statement stopped calling him a thief. At 8:31, they released him pending further inquiry. He had spent 73 minutes inside. The tricycle remained impounded for inspection. When Seyi stepped outside, Bisi stood under the station awning. Her arms were folded against the cold. Water dripped from the end of her scarf. "You waited," he said. She looked at Halima, then back at him. "You have lawyer?" "Yes. Lawyer that arrives in navy suit before your shirt has dried." She works with a transport rights organization. Halima watched him carefully. The statement was true in the narrowest possible way. She sat on the board of the organization. Bisi turned to Halima. "Can the cake be released tonight?" "Probably not. We will need a formal inspection and preservation request." "How much?" "Legal support is covered." Bisi shook her head. "Nothing is covered for poor people without somebody paying somewhere." Halima Aloe's expression softened. "We are not charging him. I already called a solicitor from my area before I knew you were coming," Bisi said. "He asked for 60,000 to attend, plus 23,500 for the urgent preservation filing, certified documents and vehicle release demand. I transferred the full amount." Seyi stared at her. "You did what? I thought you had nobody. You used your own money?" She ignored the question. "The solicitor has already started the emergency filing. He said the payment cannot be reversed once the documents are prepared." Seyi stepped closer. "How much money do you have left for your exam?" Bisi Aloe's face closed. "That is my business." "How much?" "Do not raise your voice at me." "I am not raising my voice. You are squeezing it." Halima looked away to hide a smile. Bisi opened her banking application. The balance in the account she had labeled Professional for Exam was 0. Before the gala, it had held 83,500 naira. "You spent all 83,500 because of me," Seyi said. "I spent it because somebody planted a bracelet in your cake. You do not know that yet. I know what I saw." Her certainty struck him harder than Ronki Elo's accusation. Bisi had no footage. No counsel, no hidden security team. She had seen only a flash of blue stones inside a garment lining and the behavior of a frightened rich woman. Still, she had followed him into the rain. Seyi took out the small amount of cash, returned with his property. I will repay you tonight. No, Bisi. If you pay me now, I will not know whether it is clean money. Halima looked at Seyi. He almost laughed from disbelief. Bisi continued. Your life has too many corners. First, you are ordinary driver. Then lawyer appears. You write documents like office person. Now you want to return 83,500 from a pocket that had only transport money this morning. It is clean. Then keep it until your story is clean too. She walked towards the road. She followed. At least let the driver take you home. My face is swollen. I do not want any driver asking questions. I will not ask. You are the main question. She entered a bus before he could answer. The next morning, Marina Crest sent Bisi a termination notice by email. It accused her of insubordination, interference with a guest matter, and conduct harmful to the venue Aloe's reputation. No mention of the slap. No mention of the unpaid fare. No mention of the false accusation she had challenged. By 9:10 a.m., the event staffing agency removed her from 3 future shifts. At 10:22, the manager of another venue sent a short message. We have been advised not to engage you until the Marina issue is resolved. Bisi read the message twice. Then she placed the phone face down on her food table and served a kara to the next customer. Seyi arrived at 11:03 without the tricycle. He saw the swelling on her cheek in daylight. Anger moved through him so quickly that his hands went cold. What did the doctor say? He asked. I did not go. Why? Because cheek is not a government project. It will reduce. Bisi. Do not start. He noticed the unopened email on her screen. What happened? She told him. Seyi turned away from the table. I can fix this. The words left before he stopped them. Bisi became very still. How? Seyi looked at the park. Collectors moved between drivers. Engines rattled. Halima Aloe's team watched from a distance. He could call the chief executive of Marina Crest. He could end the manager Aloe's career before noon. He could have every unpaid shift restored and compensation transferred before sunset. But Dile could do none of those things. And Seyi had promised not to reveal himself because anger demanded it. I mean, the lawyer can challenge the dismissal, he said. Bisi Aloe's eyes remained on him. You speak like somebody who gives orders for a living. Most drivers give orders. Passengers simply refuse to obey. She did not smile. Seyi lowered his voice. I am sorry. For what? For what happened because you defended me. No, do not carry Ronke Aloe's hand on your head. She slapped me. Marina Crest dismissed me. They own their actions. That does not remove the cost to you. Bisi turned the akara in the oil. I did not speak because I expected reward. I spoke because if I kept quiet, I would hear my silence every time I looked at my father Elo's notebook. At 12:40 p.m., Halima sent Seyi one message. Footage secured. Come now. The evidence room was silent when Seyi entered. Halima stood beside a large monitor. 2 digital forensic specialists had already authenticated the safety camera upload and the corridor recording from Marina Crest Aloe's off-site backup provider. Play it, Seyi said. The tricycle footage began at 5:58 p.m. It showed Ronke, Titi, and Kemi climbing in. It recorded the fare agreement, the perfume, the comments. Ronke Aloe's phone conversation about Arrowlink. Titi Aloe's joke about auditing. Then came the arrival. The angle did not show the bracelet entering the garment bag, but the corridor camera did. At 6:40:12, blue stones flashed near the torn edge of the lining. At 6:40:29, Ronke Al's assistant found the bracelet and handed it to her. At 6:40:36, Ronke closed her fist. At 6:40:58, she stepped beside the tricycle, while guests turned towards Bisi. At 6:41:3, her hand entered the rear storage space. at 6:41:11. She raised both hands and shouted that the bracelet was missing. Halima paused the video. Seyi did not speak. "Continue," he said. The slap appeared from two angles. The unpaid fare appeared. The manager Alo's dismissal appeared. Then the security supervisor turned towards a camera operator and said, "Madam wants the entrance footage removed." Another worker replied, "It backs up outside." The supervisor said, "Then call whoever controls it." Halima stopped the recording. "We have attempted evidence interference," she said. "False accusation, assault, possibly conspiracy, depending on what the assistant says." Seyi Alo's voice was quiet. "I want to reveal myself today." "No." She attacked Bisi and destroyed her work. "I know." She planted evidence in my vehicle. I watched the same video. Then, why are we waiting? Because this proves what happened at Marina Crest. It does not yet prove the financial structure. We can expose this and continue investigating. Once Ronki knows who you are, records may disappear. Drivers may be threatened. Funds may move. Companies may change directors overnight. Seyi stared at the frozen image of Ronke Alo's hand inside the tricycle. How long? 48 hours to secure emergency preservation orders and collect the material already offered by drivers. 24, 48. Halima, chairman. That title landed between them, not as respect, as reminder he was not Dealey in that room. He was the person whose impatience could destroy the case. 48 hours, he said. Halima nodded. During that time, Bisi and the main witnesses received discreet protection. Already arranged, and Marina Crest, their board has received a preservation notice. They do not know the driver, Alo's identity. Seyi looked at the screen again. Good. The offer came to Bisi that evening. A black car stopped near her room at 7:26 p.m. A man she did not know stepped down and handed her an envelope. Inside was a typed statement. It said the rain had affected her vision. It said she had mistakenly believed the bracelet remained in Ronke Alo's dress. It said Dealey behaved aggressively and may have taken the jewelry while unloading the event materials. At the bottom was a blank signature line. Behind the paper was a bank draft for 2,500,000 naira. The man smiled. Madam Ronke understands you lost some shifts. This will help you move forward. Bisi held the draft beneath the corridor light. 2,500,000. Her rent arrears were 170,000. The full professional exam registration, study materials and transport would cost less than 400,000. She could move her food business into a proper shop. She could replace the refrigerator that had stopped working. She could breathe. The man watched her face. Just sign, he said. Nobody is asking you to lie, only to admit that rain can confuse a person. Bisi looked at the statement again. I saw her assistant find the bracelet. Are you certain? It was raining. I was under a roof. You had many glasses on your tray. The tray was in my hand, not over my eyes. His smile disappeared. My sister, do not let stubbornness keep you poor. Bisi folded the statement. For one moment, the man believed she was accepting. Then she tore it once, twice, 4 times. She placed the pieces inside the envelope and returned the bank draft. Tell Madam Ronke that rain did not wash my eyes, she said, and hunger has not eaten my memory. The man stepped closer. You should think well. I have thought. People who fight powerful women can lose more than work. Bisi Alo's heart began to beat harder. Behind the corner of the building, an unmarked security operative recorded the exchange from a lawful public position. Halima Alo's team had anticipated contact. Bisi did not know. She only knew that fear was standing in front of her wearing polished shoes. She raised her chin. Then let powerful women explain why they need to buy the truth from a food seller. The man entered the car. It drove away. Bisi locked her door with shaking hands. She did not sleep well. At 5:43 the next morning, she opened her food stand. At 6:02, two local compliance officers arrived. They inspected her burner, her water container, her waste bucket, and her food storage box. One wrote 3 violations. Another ordered her to close until she produced updated permits. Bisi knew the permits were valid. She produced them. The officer looked at the papers and said one stamp was unclear. Return to the office on Monday. It is Thursday. Then enjoy your weekend. He placed a closure notice across the front of her table. Drivers gathered. Bisi did not cry. She removed the akara from the oil, turned off the gas and covered the pot. Seyi arrived 11 minutes later. What happened? Bisi pointed at the notice. They found unclear stamp. He read it. The stamp was clear. Who came? She described the officers. Did anybody visit you last night? Bisi looked at him sharply. How did you know? Seyi had made a mistake. He corrected quickly. People who plant evidence may try to change your statement. She told him about the draft. How much? 2.5 million. And you returned it? Bisi Elo's face hardened. You think I should have taken it? No. You sound surprised. I am angry that they offered. Anger will not remove this paper. No. Evidence will. Bisi looked at him for a long moment. You say that often. Because it is true. Then show me where your evidence has taken us. You have no keke. I have no evening work. Now I have no morning work. Ronki is preparing to collect 48 billion naira. Seyi felt every sentence. Bisi Elo's voice lowered. I do not regret speaking. But do not stand here and make struggle sound beautiful. It is not beautiful. It is expensive. She lifted the covered pot. Help carry this. He carried it. For the next hour, they moved her things into a small storeroom nearby. Seyi Elo's hands smelled of oil and smoke. The mustard shirt stained at one cuff. No speech repaired the lost sales. No secret fortune made delay useful to Bisi in that moment. Only his hands did. That afternoon, Halima met Bisi in a quiet legal aid office. She explained that the camera footage proved the bracelet had been planted. She did not yet show the full recording because preservation orders were active, but she showed enough for Bisi to understand. Bisi watched Ronke Elo's hand enter the tricycle storage space. Her eyes filled, not from surprise, from release. I knew what I saw, she whispered. Yes, Halima said. Will the police clear Dili? We have submitted the footage. The theft allegation should collapse. Should. Lawyers use careful words. Careful words are tiring. They are. But they survive longer than reckless ones. Bisi looked towards the door. Who is Daly? Halima did not move. What do you mean? He is not ordinary driver. No human being is ordinary. That is lawyer answer. Halima smiled faintly. He is a man investigating something important. He will explain the rest himself. When? Soon. I have heard that word from offices before. This time, it has a date. Halima slid an invitation across the table. The card carried the gold crest of Arrowlink Holdings. Formal signing and community consultation. Saturday. Marina Crest Pavilion. 11:00 o'clock. Bisi read it. Ronk will be there? Yes. Why am I invited? To present the driver records. Bisi looked up. To whom? The people who were preparing to fund her. Hope entered the room again, this time. It sat down. For 48 hours, the evidence moved quickly. Drivers brought receipts wrapped in nylon, notebooks stained with oil, screenshots of transfers, and voice notes from field officers. Some came after dark. Some refused to give names until Halima showed them the preservation order. Some spoke only when they learned that Bisi had refused 2.5 million naira. Her refusal traveled through the parks faster than Ronke Alo's charity videos. Bisi and Halima Alo's audit team compared every payment against the official contract. The numbers grew. The public report claimed 1,247 people had completed formal training. Attendance records supported only 312. 63 tricycles had been seized without the required notice or cure period. 41 remained in storage yards. 22 had been transferred for resale or dismantling. Maintenance invoices were inflated by 218.9 million naira. Improper collections, false reimbursements and unsupported program expenses reached a preliminary total of 612.4 million. Bisi found the line that changed her breathing. Her father Alo's chassis number appeared in the list of 22 vehicles. Status: voluntary surrender. Disposal route: secondary resale. Outstanding borrower liability: active. She touched the screen. He begged them not to take it, she said. Halima sat beside her. The bank statements match his notebook. He paid 87%. They called it voluntary. I know. He was standing outside in hospital slippers. Halima did not offer a comforting phrase. Some grief did not need words placed on top of it. Bisi wiped her eyes. Print this page. We will. No. Print 2 copies. 1 for court, 1 for me. At Velvet Route Ilo's office, Ronke received a formal request to confirm the training numbers, seizure records, and related party transactions before the signing ceremony. She called Titi first. Sign the confirmation, she said. Have you reviewed everything? Titi asked. Of course. There are questions about vehicle disposal. Routine compliance noise. Arrowlink people like paper. Give them paper. Titi looked at the document on her tablet. She had seen some of the resale income. She had asked no questions when profits increased. Are we exposed? She whispered. Ronke Alo's voice sharpened. Do not speak like a frightened village girl. You are a director. Act like one. Titi signed. Kemi received the same document. She read more carefully. The numbers did not reconcile. She knew it. Months earlier, she had questioned why the charity reported more trainees than the photographs and attendance sheets showed. Ronke had called it rolling participation. Kemi had accepted the explanation because the program raised her public profile. Now the signature line waited. She could refuse. She could call Arrowlink. She could ask for an independent review. Instead, she remembered the club chairmanship, the invitations, the brand deals, and the women who praised her online. She signed at 9:18 p.m. The next morning, Marina Crest shone as if nothing ugly had ever happened there. Fresh flowers lined the entrance. Gold chairs faced a wide stage. The Dignity on Wheels banner had been replaced by Arrowlink Alo's corporate screen. Bank representatives sat in the front row. Journalists adjusted cameras near the side aisle. Bisi arrived at 10:36 a.m., wearing a simple ivory dress with a pale aqua jacket. Her cheek had faded from red to yellow-brown. She carried 2 folders against her chest. The manager who had dismissed her saw her invitation and went pale. Who gave you this? He asked. The name is printed at the bottom. He read it. Arrowlink Legal and Governance Office. His throat moved. Please wait here. I was told to enter. Security checked the invitation and opened the door. Bisi walked past him. Inside, Ronke stood near the stage in ruby red. Titi wore emerald. Kemi wore electric magenta. Their colors were bright enough for celebration. Their faces were not. Ronke saw Bisi. What is she doing here? Titi turned. Who invited that food seller? Kemi lowered her phone. Bisi continued to the community seating area. Then she saw the yellow tricycle through the glass doors behind the hall. It was parked between 2 black executive vehicles. Her heart shifted. Deal stood near the rear entrance wearing the same mustard shirt and dark trousers. The cleaned tricycle keys hung from one finger. Bisi moved towards him. You got it back? Yes. The case? Cleared. Halima showed me the video. I know. She held his gaze. Today you will tell me who you are. Yes. Ronke Ala's voice cut across the hall. The security. People turned. She marched towards Seyi. How did this thief enter? She demanded. Remove him before Chairman Coker Alo's representatives arrive. The security men hesitated. They had received a confidential instruction that the mustard-shirted driver was not to be touched. Ronke mistook hesitation for incompetence. Are all of you deaf? Throw him outside, and take that woman with him. Titi came beside her. Honestly, Marina Crest has lost all standards. First, they allow Tricycle at the entrance. Now drivers are walking inside like shareholders. Kemi began recording. Bisi looked at Seyi. He did not move. There was no fear in his face, only a tired calm. Halima approached from the stage carrying a leather folder. The Arrowlink directors behind her began to stand. Ronke pointed at Seyi. Madam Halima, thank God you are here. This is the man who stole my bracelet. I do not know why he has been allowed into your signing. Halima stopped beside him. She opened the folder. Then she spoke clearly enough for the hall, the cameras, and every person who had ever laughed at a poor man to hear. Mr. Coker, she said, the board is ready whenever you are. For 1 second, nobody understood. The words entered the hall but refused to settle. Mr. Coker. Ronke looked past the driver, searching for the man Halima must have meant. Titi turned towards the rear doors. Kemi lowered her phone and stared at the aisle. There was nobody behind him. The chief executive of Arrowlink Holdings rose from the front row. Then the bank chairman stood. Then every Arrowlink director followed. Chairs moved against the floor in one long scrape. Good morning, Chairman, the chief executive said. The mustard-shirted driver gave a small nod. Ronke Alo's lips parted. No sound came. On the stage, the giant screen changed. The Arrowlink logo faded. A formal portrait appeared. The same deep eyes, the same face. A cobalt suit instead of a faded mustard shirt. Seyi Coker, founder and chairman. Arrowlink Holdings. A glass slipped from a waiter Elo's tray near the side wall. It struck the floor and broke. Nobody turned. Titi Alo's right hand flew to her mouth. Kemi Alo's phone slowly dropped against her chest. Ronke took 1 step backwards, the ruby fabric of her gown brushing the leg of a gold chair. Bisi did not move. She looked from the screen to Dile, no, to Seyi. The man who had counted coins beside her Akara pot. The man who had carried her covered pap into a storeroom. The man whose trousers had been pushed into mud at Sangotedo. The man she had suspected of running away from a wife. The richest man in Lagos stood 3 meters from her, wearing a peeling reflective strip. Her first emotion was not excitement. It was anger. Seyi saw it. He knew he deserved it. Ronke found her voice first. Sir, she whispered. The word sounded injured. Seyi walked towards the stage. He did not remove the mustard shirt. He did not change shoes. He did not accept the cobalt jacket an assistant had prepared near the stairs. He climbed onto the stage, dressed exactly as he had been, when Titi threw his fare into dirty water. The hall remained standing. Please sit, he said. Everyone sat. Ronke did not. She stood in the aisle, one hand gripping the back of a chair. Sir, I can explain, she said. Seyi looked at her. Which part? Ronke swallowed. The incident at the entrance. There was confusion. The weather was terrible. Emotions were high. The rain planted your bracelet? A murmur passed through the hall. Ronke Alo's eyes flicked towards Halima. Sir, you must understand. I did not know it was you. The words came out before she could stop them. Seyi Alo's face became still. There are sentences that reveal more than confession. That was one. You did not know it was me, he repeated. Ronke Alo's fingers tightened around the chair. I did not understand the situation. No, your first statement was clearer. He stepped closer to the edge of the stage. You did not know the driver had money. You did not know the driver could affect your contract. You did not know the driver Alo's name could frighten the people who laughed with you. So you treated him according to the value you assigned to a poor man. Ronke shook her head quickly. That is not my character. Then perhaps we should allow your character to speak for itself. Seyi turned towards the screen. Halima. The lights dimmed. The first video began. It showed the yellow tricycle stopping beneath the rain. It showed Ronke, Titi and Kemi climbing in. The hall heard the fare agreed at 4,300 naira. Then Kemi Alo's voice filled the speakers, removing the smell of public transport. Some guests shifted in their seats. Titi Altho's laughter followed. Ronke Altho's phone call came next. Chairman Coker will not attend. He never attends these social things. We only need his executives. The camera cut to Seyi Alo's face in the mirror, calm, listening. Then Titi Alo's voice rang through the hall. What will he do? Audit us. No one laughed now. The footage continued. Ronke spraying perfume across the seat. Titi dropping 500 naira into the puddle. Pick your transport fare from there. That is where people of your level belong. On the front row, a bank executive closed his eyes. Kemi Alo's face lost color. Her own phone was still in her hand, but she no longer seemed to remember it. Then Bisi entered the frame. The hall watched her defend the agreed fare. They watched Ronke turn on her. They watched the assistant find the sapphire bracelet inside the lining of the garment bag. The timestamp enlarged on the screen. 6:40:29 p.m. Ronke receiving the bracelet. 6:40:36 p.m. Ronke closing her fist. 6:41:03 p.m. Her hand entering the tricycle storage space. 6:41:11 p.m. Her scream. The security search. The bracelet appearing. The slap. The dismissal. The order to remove the entrance footage. When the video ended, the lights remained low. Nobody spoke. The silence had weight. Ronke lifted her chin, but her voice shook. This video has been edited. Halima stepped to a lectern. The footage came from 2 independent systems. She said, the tricycle safety camera uploaded automatically to an off-site server. Marina Crest Alo's corridor camera was preserved by its external backup provider before deletion could occur. Both files were examined by independent digital forensics specialists. Hash values, metadata, and chain of custody records are included in the board pack. Ronke turned towards the journalists. This is a setup. A billionaire disguised himself and followed me. He planned to embarrass me. Seyi replied without raising his voice. I entered the transport system to examine charges connected to a proposed investment. I did not ask you to plant jewelry. I did not ask you to strike a worker. I did not ask you to refuse an agreed fare. Titi stood suddenly. Chairman, I did not know about the bracelet. I only came with them. Seyi looked at her. You threw the fare into a puddle. Titi Ao's mouth trembled. It was a joke. A joke is shared amusement. He was not amused. Bisi was not amused. The only people laughing were those who believed the target could not answer. Kemi stared down at her phone. Seyi turned to her. You recorded the humiliation. I did not post it, Kemi said quickly. You watched a worker get slapped and your concern was whether the scene would entertain your followers. Kemi Alo's shoulders folded inward. I was wrong. Yes, the single word landed harder than shouting. Ronke stepped into the aisle. Sir, whatever happened that night, it should not destroy a program helping thousands of drivers. Seyi Alo's expression changed. Now we have reached the program. Halima touched the control panel. The screen filled with figures. 1,247 reported trainees. 312 verified attendees. A second figure appeared. 63 vehicles seized outside required notice procedures. Then another, 218.9 million naira in inflated maintenance invoices. Then the preliminary total, 612.4 million naira in unsupported collections, false reimbursements and irregular transactions. Gasps moved through the room. The bank chairman leaned towards his legal advisor. Ronka shook her head. Those numbers are incomplete. They are preliminary, Halima said. That means they may increase. You cannot present allegations as fact. We are to presenting reconciled records, payment evidence and corporate filings. The legal conclusions will be determined by the appropriate authorities. Seyi looked towards Bisi. Ms. Adebayo, please come forward. Every eye followed her. Bisi remained seated for one breath, then she stood. Her knees felt weak. The folders in her hands seemed heavier than paper. She walked to the stage while the same women who had treated her like dirt watched without blinking. Seyi offered his hand at the stairs. Bisi looked at it. Then she climbed without taking it. He understood. At the lectern, Bisi opened the first folder. My name is Bisi Adebayo, she said. I studied accounting. I sell food at Oberlende in the morning, and until 3 days ago, I worked event shifts in this building. The manager near the wall lowered his head. Bisi continued. I am not here because Chairman Coker knows me. I am here because drivers kept records when the people collecting from them believed poor people could not count. She held up a photocopied receipt. This driver paid maintenance levy on Tuesday. The payment was entered as arrears recovery. Because of that wrong classification, the system continued to show debt, and his tricycle was seized after a payment made before the deadline. Another document appeared on the screen. This receipt shows 32,000 naira charged for reactivation and towing. The contract provides a reconciliation period. It was ignored. She turned a page. This is my father, Alo's payment record. He paid 87% of the agreed purchase amount. He entered hospital. He was 9 days late on 38,500 naira. His tricycle was taken without proper notice. Her voice caught. She stopped. The hall waited. Bisi breathed once and continued. The company record describes what happened as voluntary surrender. My father stood outside in hospital slippers and begged them not to carry his means of livelihood. There was nothing voluntary about it. The chassis number appeared on the screen. Status: disposed. Borrower liability: active. A journalist raised a camera. Bisi did not look towards it. This is not only my family Alo's case, she said. There are 62 others in the verified list. Each number belongs to a person. Each fee removed food, medicine, rent, or school money from somewhere. When small illegal charges are repeated across many poor people, the final theft does not remain small. She closed the folder. That is the account. For a moment the hall stayed silent. Then one driver seated near the back began to clap. Another joined. Then the community section rose. The applause spread through the hall, not wild, not celebratory, but firm. It sounded like people returning a name that had been taken. Bisi stepped away from the lectern. Seyi looked at her with respect. Not gratitude alone, respect. The bank chairman stood when the applause ended. Pending full investigation, all financing connected to Velvet Route Ventures is suspended with immediate effect. Another banking representative rose. Our institution is freezing the scheduled release and reviewing exposure to related entities. The Arrowlink chief executive followed. Velvet Route Ventures is removed from the preferred bidder process. Ronka gripped the chair again. You cannot do this based on one presentation. Seyi turned towards her. The contract has not been awarded. Arrowlink is not obligated to fund a bidder that cannot satisfy due diligence. Ronke looked towards Titi and Kemi. Neither met her eyes. Halima continued. Preservation orders have been served on the relevant banks, storage yards, and corporate registries. The evidence package has been submitted to the appropriate investigative authorities. Those authorities will determine charges and next steps. Two officials seated near the side aisle stood. They did not rush towards Ronke. They did not handcuff her for the cameras. They approached with documents. One spoke quietly. "Mrs. Balagan, you are required to acknowledge service of this notice and remain available for interview." Ronke stared at the papers. Her empire had not collapsed with sirens. It had collapsed with signatures. Titi moved away from her. "Ronke, you told us the figures were clean." Ronke turned on her. "You signed every board resolution. Because you controlled the operations. You enjoyed the distributions." Titi Alo's face changed. Seyi signaled to Halima. A document appeared on the screen. It was the confirmation request, sent 2 nights earlier. Titi George. Signed. Time, 8:44 p.m. The statement beneath her signature confirmed that she had reviewed the seizure and related party disclosures. Titi swayed slightly. "I did not read all the annexes." Seyi Alo's voice stayed level. "You signed a declaration that affected hundreds of livelihoods without reading it. I trusted Ronke. You transferred your duty into trust because checking might have disturbed your profit." Titi sat down. Kemi Alo's signature appeared next. She did not argue. "I knew something was wrong," she said. The admission moved through the hall. Ronke looked at her in disbelief. Kemi continued, her voice low. "I asked about the training figures months ago. The attendance did not match the public report. Ronke said participants were counted across repeated sessions. I accepted it." "Why?" Seyi asked. Kemi closed her eyes. "Because the program was good for my image." There it was. No clever defense, only truth. Seyi nodded once. "Silence from a person with influence is not empty. It protects whoever is doing harm." Kemi Alo's eyes filled. "I understand." "No," Bisi said from beside the stage. "You are beginning to understand. The people who lost vehicles have been understanding it for years." Kemi looked towards her. She lowered her head. Ronke suddenly walked towards the stage. The officials moved, but Seyi raised one hand. She stopped beneath him. Her ruby gown no longer looked powerful, it looked heavy. "Chairman," she said, "please, I built this company from nothing. I made mistakes, but I also created jobs. Do not let one incident erase everything." Seyi looked down at her. "You tried to erase a man with one incident." Her knees bent. She went down on the polished floor. A murmur passed through the room. "Sir, forgive me." Seyi Alo's face hardened. "Stand up." Ronke looked at him through tears. "Please, stand up. Do not kneel to me." She rose unsteadily. "You are apologizing towards the richest person in the room," he said. "That is still the same mistake." Ronke Alo's eyes moved towards Bisi. For the first time, she seemed to see her as more than an obstacle. "I am sorry," Ronke said. Bisi did not answer immediately. The hall waited for a dramatic forgiveness, a hug, tears, a clean ending that would allow everybody to leave comfortable. Bisi did not give them one. "You slapped me because you believed nobody important would object," she said. "You planted your bracelet because you believed a driver Alo's name was cheap. You took vehicles and called it surrender. An apology is not a cloth you spread over all that dirt." Ronke Alo's mouth trembled. "What do you want me to do? Return what was taken. Correct the records. Pay the people. Tell the truth without a camera helping you look kind." Ronke looked at Seyi. "He did not rescue her from the answer," Bisi continued. "After that, the people you harmed will decide what your apology means." The officials asked Ronke to step aside and review the documents. She obeyed. Seyi returned to the lectern. "Today, Alo's signing is cancelled," he said. The journalists began typing. But the transport investment itself is not cancelled. Several drivers looked up. We will not remove one private operator and hand the same power to another operator with a cleaner brochure. The new structure will be redesigned with driver ownership, independent complaints, transparent electronic receipts, and enforceable limits on vehicle seizure. The screen showed a draft governance diagram. Drivers will hold 51% of voting rights through a cooperative structure. No fee will be valid without a published basis and an electronic record. Contracts will be explained in plain language before signature. Every driver will receive a complete statement of principal, interest, penalties, and maintenance charges. A driver in the back called out, "Will they still seize keke?" Seyi looked towards him. Only through a documented process after notice, an opportunity to correct the default and independent review. No field officer will wake up and remove a person Aloe's livelihood because of a transfer delay. Another driver stood. Who will control complaint line? Not the collection company. An independent operator, reporting to a board where drivers have seats. Who chooses the drivers? You will. The man sat slowly. Seyi looked across the room. I also need to say this clearly. Arrowlink nearly funded this system. We relied on scheduled visits, polished reports and figures prepared by people who have benefited from our approval. That failure belongs to our leadership. A director shifted uncomfortably. Seyi continued. We cannot call ourselves innocent because we discovered the problem before signing. We came close enough to strengthen it. That is why the correction must be more than cancelling a contract. Bisi watched him. This was the man she had not seen in delay, not the billionaire, the accountable leader. He turned towards her. Ms. Adebayo, the community review process will require people who understand both the numbers and the human cost behind them. You will be invited to apply through an independent selection process. Bisi lifted one eyebrow. Apply? A faint smile touched Seyi Aloe's face. Yes. Not appointed because I helped you. No. Good. A few people laughed softly. The tension broke for one breath. Seyi looked back at the hall. There is one more matter. Ronka raised her head. Titi went still. The loss of this contract is not the largest consequence of what happened, Seyi said. The largest consequence is that the people treated as invisible will now participate in controlling the system built around their labor. He pointed towards the community section. You collected from them without explanation. You used their faces for publicity. You decided their complaints were noise. From today, they will have votes. The drivers rose. This time, the applause was louder. Ronke stood beside the officials with papers in her hands. The sound surrounded her. For years, she had built stages where poor people stood behind her as proof of kindness. Now they stood in front of her as proof. When the program ended, journalists crowded the aisle. Bank executives moved into emergency meetings. Lawyers collected signed notices. The event manager tried to approach Bisi, but she walked past him. Seyi found her near the glass doors. Outside, the yellow tricycle waited beneath the morning sun. Bisi, he said. She turned. You lied to me. I withheld my identity. That is rich man grammar for lying. He accepted the blow. Yes. You allowed me to think you had nobody. I had protection. I did not have somebody willing to stand beside me without knowing my name. That does not make the lie correct. No. She looked at him carefully. Why did you not tell me after the station? Because the evidence was not secured. Because Ronka could have destroyed records. Because Halima was right. And because part of me was afraid that once you knew, everything honest thing between us would become different. It is different, I know. Bisi looked through the glass at the tricycle. The 83,500 naira. I will return it. Not to me. Seyi waited. Put it somewhere drivers can use when powerful people accuse them and they cannot afford a lawyer. We will create a legal support fund. Do not create one because I said one sentence. Design it properly. He almost smiled. Yes, Ma. Bisi Arlo's eyes narrowed. Do not ma me. Understood. She walked towards the exit. Seyi called after her. Will you apply for the role? Bisi kept walking. I will read the job description first. Then she stepped into the sunlight. For the first time that day, Seyi laughed. 9 months did not pass like a movie montage. They passed in hearings, affidavits, bank statements, vehicle inspections, and long afternoons where people repeated painful facts to strangers taking notes. Justice did not arrive wearing music. It arrived carrying files. The commercial court issued its first major ruling in January. Velvet Route Ventures and the connected resale companies were ordered to account for every seized tricycle in the verified group of 63. 41 vehicles were located. Some stood in storage yards with flat tires and missing batteries. Some had been repainted. 7 had already been leased to new drivers who did not know where the machines had come from. Each vehicle had to be traced, inspected, and returned through a supervised process. The remaining 22 could not be returned. They had been sold, dismantled, or transferred beyond recovery. For those, the court ordered compensation based on current replacement value, not the lower old contract figure Velvet Route wanted to use. Improper penalties were reversed. False outstanding balances were removed. Credit records were corrected. The process took time. It still mattered. At Oberlende, one driver received a letter confirming that a debt of 194,000 naira had never been valid. He read the letter 4 times before he believed it. Another man touched the returned handle of his tricycle and began to cry without sound. Bisi stood beside him. You have checked the chassis number? She asked. He laughed through his tears. Accountant, allow me to greet my property first. She smiled. Greet it, then check. Ronke lost control of Velvet Route before the first quarter ended. The board removed her under pressure from lenders and court-appointed monitors. Assets connected to the disputed transactions were frozen to preserve funds for repayment and compensation. Her criminal case did not end in the conference hall. It moved through investigation and court, like any serious case should. Allegations of false documentation, witness intimidation, evidence interference, and fraudulent accounting were tested before judges, not social media. Seyi never called a minister to decide the outcome. He never asked a police officer to punish her because she had insulted him. He gave evidence when required and allowed the process to continue. That restraint disappointed people who wanted instant revenge. It protected the truth. Titi sold part of her investment property to meet the civil obligations attached to board decisions she had signed. 3 organizations removed her from their boards. During one hearing, her lawyer argued that she had relied on Ronke Alo's management reports. The judge asked one question. Then why did you sign that you had reviewed them? Titi had no answer. Kemi cooperated with investigators and produced old emails, draft reports, and messages showing when she first questioned the training figures. Her cooperation reduced some civil consequences. It did not erase them. She resigned from the Sapphire Women Elo's circle and released a public statement without filtered photographs or inspirational music. I saw signs that the figures were wrong, she said. I remained silent because the program benefited my image. My silence helped the harm continue. Many people praised her honesty. Bisi did not. She did not attack her either. Confession is the beginning of repair, Bisi said when a journalist asked. It is not the repair itself. Marina Crest Pavilion faced its own review. The internal investigation found that the event manager had dismissed Bisi without hearing her account, failed to report the assault, and tried to preserve a sponsor relationship at the expense of staff safety. The venue paid Bisi compensation for wrongful termination and lost shifts. It also changed its incident policy so that guest status could not override employee protection procedures. The manager sent Bisi an apology letter. She read it once, then she filed it beside the compensation documents. She did not return to carrying trays there. By November, Bisi had completed her professional examination. The night before the first paper, she sat at a small desk surrounded by notes on financial reporting, audit controls, and corporate governance. At 1:14 a.m., her phone vibrated. A message from Seyi. Read the question twice. Do not argue with the examiner, Bisi replied. Tell the examiner not to hide fees in annexes. His answer came 1 minute later. I withdraw my advice. She laughed quietly and returned to her books. When the result arrived, she opened it at the food stand. Pass. For 5 seconds, she said nothing. Then she covered her face with both hands. The drivers around her thought something bad had happened. What is it? One asked. Bisi turned the phone towards them. The park erupted. Somebody began beating a rhythm on a tricycle roof. Another driver bought every remaining akara and shared them free. A man who still owed her 700 naira announced that the debt should be forgiven because celebration had entered the park. Bisi chased him until he paid. 2 months later, the new transport structure began formal operations. It was called Dignity Ride Cooperative. Seyi had disliked the name at first, because Ronke had damaged the word dignity with too much performance. Bisi argued that bad people should not be allowed to steal good words. She won. Drivers held 51% of voting rights through elected representatives. Collection rules were published at every participating park. Each payment produced an electronic receipt and a printed option for drivers without smartphones. Statements showed principal, interest, insurance, maintenance, and penalties on separate lines. No field officer could seize a vehicle. Any serious default required written notice, a correction period, and independent review. Medical emergencies triggered temporary payment support rather than punishment. Drivers received accident cover and quarterly financial literacy sessions. The complaints line was operated outside the collection company. Every call received a reference number. Every unresolved case appeared before a review panel that included driver representatives. The legal support fund began with the 83,500 naira Bisi had spent when she believed Dele had nobody. Seyi multiplied the amount. Bisi rejected the first structure his team proposed. It is too dependent on Arrowlink, she said during a governance meeting. If the company funds everything, the fund will fear the company. One executive frowned. Ms. Adebayo, Arrowlink is providing the money. And tomorrow, Arrowlink may be the organization a driver needs to challenge. The room became quiet. Seyi leaned back in his chair. She is right. The fund was placed under independent trustees with published eligibility rules and annual external audit. Bisi applied for the position of Community Controls Officer. She submitted a formal application, sat through 2 interviews, and completed a technical test built by an external recruitment firm. Seyi did not sit on the panel. Halima did not give her the questions. When Bisi scored highest, the selection committee offered her the role. She read the contract for 3 days. Then she returned it with 11 requested amendments. Seyi received a copy and laughed until Halima asked what was funny. She has corrected our complaint escalation clause. Is she wrong? No. Then stop laughing and amend it. Bisi started work on a Monday morning at 8:03. She wore an ivory blouse, Pale aqua trousers and low black shoes. No ruby, no emerald, no costume of power. Her first official case involved a driver charged twice for insurance in the same month. She did not call Seyi. She called the payment processor, demanded a reconciliation, and obtained a refund by 3:26 p.m. That was how systems changed, not only through public speeches. Through a duplicate charge corrected before it became somebody Allo's missing dinner. The tricycle once driven by Bisi Allo's father could not be recovered. It had been dismantled after resale. The court awarded replacement compensation. Bisi used part of the money to purchase a training tricycle for the cooperative center. On its side, she placed a small metal plate, carrying her father Allo's original chassis number and one sentence. A contract must never become a weapon against the person who cannot afford to read it twice. Seyi offered to place the machine in a glass display. Bisi refused. "Let people learn with it," she said. "My father bought it to work, not to decorate rich people's lobby." So new drivers used it during training. The machine carried scratches. Its seat wore down. Its engine required repairs. That was exactly right. At the first annual cooperative meeting, Seyi stood before more than 400 drivers. This time, he wore the bright cobalt suit. The mustard shirt had been framed in his private office, not as proof of humility, but as proof of how easily wealth had once separated him from the ground. "I need to repeat something," he told the meeting. "Arrowlink did not rescue this system. Arrowlink nearly funded the wrong one." The room quietened. "We discovered the truth because drivers kept receipts, because witnesses refused money, and because people like Bisi spoke when silence was safer. Leadership must not demand praise for correcting a danger it helped create." Bisi watched from the side of the hall. He had learned. After the meeting, they walked towards the training yard. Evening light rested across the line of yellow tricycles. Seyi handed her a document. "What is this?" she asked. "The Legal Fund Allo's first annual report. You want me to review it? I fear you will review it whether I want you to or not. That is correct." They walked a few more steps. Seyi looked at her. "Do you still think I am hiding something?" "Yes." He stopped. "You still pretend you like Pakakara more than the expensive breakfast in your house." "I do like it more." "Liar." He smiled. Bisi smiled too. There was affection between them now, but neither used it to cheapen what had happened. Bisi Allo's future was not a reward placed in Seyi Allo's hand. Seyi Allo's wealth was not a shortcut around her work. They respected each other. That was enough to begin honestly. From my own point of view, the poorest person in Marina Crest that rainy evening was never the man driving the tricycle. A person can lack money and still carry truth, discipline, and compassion. Another person can own houses, companies, and jewelry, yet remain bankrupt where character is concerned. Seyi Allo's identity made the reveal dramatic. It did not make Ronka Allo's behavior wrong. Her behavior was already wrong when she believed Dele would remain a driver for the rest of his life. Bisi Allo's kindness was already valuable when she believed he could never repay her. The measure of both women was revealed before anybody knew who controlled the billions. That is the lesson I carry from their story. Do not respect a driver because he may secretly own the company. Respect him even if he never owns anything beyond the hands with which he works. The way we treat people who cannot reward us, employ us, or punish us is often the most honest account of who we truly are.